Thank you, Dana. That's really good. Good morning. If you think this is a little different this morning, it is. Our Pastor T's getting a well-deserved R&R for a couple weeks, so be doing things just a little different. And if things don't flow as you think they should, it's all in the Holy Spirit, because I'm not taking any responsibility. So, announcements this morning. The radio broadcast is sponsored by Mary McCarter in memory of her sister, Bessie Williams. Altar flowers today are given by Rebecca Mitovich in loving memory of Constantine Brandy, never forgotten by the Mitovich family. I'd like to open with a word of prayer, please. O holy God, open unto me light for my darkness, courage for my fear, hope for my despair. O loving God, open me unto me wisdom for my confession, forgiveness for my sins, love for my hate. O God of peace, open unto me peace for my turmoil, joy for my sorrow, strength for my weakness. O generous God, open my heart to receive all your gifts. Amen. And you can really tell that summer's over now. We've got a full choir here, so that's when you know that it's football season, I guess. So. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay. We'll do the first hymn is Christ for the World We Sing, hymn number 568. And also, just so you know, in the following, the other two hymns in here, the numbers are wrong. The second hymn is 463 and then 438, but we'll remind you as we go on.
With loving
Okay, please stand if you're able for hymn number 463, Lord Speak to Me. I told you I wasn't taking responsibility for any of this. Yeah. think, when when I said the Spirit was going to lead this, when you hear the message today, you're going to find that that's probably really an appropriate hymn that went with that. This morning, our prayer concerns, we have especially Michelle Taylor and Zach Sims, and then we also have a list that we just need to remember. I'm sure there are folks who are laid on your hearts that you're thinking about that you know need our prayers. So at this time, just think about them, and I'll give you this prayer. Lord Jesus, who went about doing good and healing all, we ask you to bless our friends who are sick. Give them the strength in body, courage in spirit, and patience in pain. Let them recover their health so that restored to the Christian community, they may joyfully praise your name, for you live and reign forever and ever. Amen. And this time, if you can, the Lord, the prayer that Jesus gave us in remembrance of him, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. You know, it never fails to surprise you. However many times I sat in that sanctuary and saw how the service is supposed to go, it looks a lot different from up here going this way. Okay, our scripture reading today is from Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. May God add his blessing to this word. Today we have a special speakers with us today, Sherry and Brad Catron. They're the folks who spearheaded this Foothold Ministry and people that we've been supporting, and they're going to give us a little insight about how this got started, what they're doing, and the things that they're having to go through to keep this thing going. So, Brad and Sherry, if you want to come up.
Necessary right
Sometimes, yeah.
now? Are you sure?
Well, it's just, you never know.
Is this because of the gala?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, so our theme for our gala is Wanderlust, but I had a different idea in mind. I was thinking it's travel theme. I had more of a, going to the beach and I think I have some sunglasses.
Like you're ready to get on a cruise
Yeah, so
ship.
I think this feels more relaxing to me than what you've got going on. But we're all different.
Right.
So we were just doing this today to illustrate. Our gala's coming up in just a couple weeks, and the theme for it is dress for a destination. So for you, that may be dress for a vacation, might be your favorite or dream place you like to visit. Maybe it's Alaska cruise. I'm really thinking about that.
So don't say, for Brad and Sherry, I don't have a tux. I'll have to rent a tux, or I'll have to get a formal dress. No way. You can come as you are, or you can think about where you really like to go on a vacation.
some people travel in their pajamas, right? Like if you're
right.
flying, we see a lot of people traveling in their pajamas. That's totally fine too.
Yeah.
The only thing we ask for this event is you don't come in a bathing suit, right? Like I know we wear that sometimes, but this event, let's cover it up a little bit, okay? That's the only thing that we ask. So you come as you are, have a little fun. One of the tables is planning to be tacky tourists. So that's going to be a lot of fun too, to see how just the fun you might have with it. Some of us are dressing for a tropical trip. Others are dressing for an expedition, it seems like you're going on, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely want to invite you all to come. And we also, if you are interested in helping, we definitely have some volunteer, we forgot to print that off.
Yeah.
But we have lots of opportunities for volunteers too who might want to be involved, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you for putting up with our little shenanigans
Yeah.
here. But last year, there were several people who were confused about what to wear, and some of us dressed up more than others. And so this year we just thought, let's have fun with the dress, right? Just you come as you are. Like I thought, when I travel, I just dress comfortably,
Yeah.
right? But Brad likes to come prepared for the worst. It
Yeah,
seems,
yeah.
right? That's how you travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a packer.
So October 5th, from 6 to 9 p.m. is the Foothold International Wanderlust Gala. You're all invited.
Yep.
You know, we're going to have food is going to be prepared by our kitchen custom catering. High Five Cakes is supplying some really good cupcakes, of course. And then Highlands Ice Cream is supplying some ice cream for you also, if that's not enough. And then there's this guy named Danny Hines. I don't know if I don't know if you want to come and listen to him or not, but he's part of the program.
He's providing some live music.
It'll be
for
great
us
to have
throughout
him
the
back
night.
again this
Yep.
year.
You remember this time.
Yeah, I remember this time. So.
October 5th.
Yeah.
It's at the Postmark on Paint Street.
Yep.
So it'll be right there, very convenient location.
And
We have these
have these
sitting
out
out
here at the
here if you
table.
want to take this. There's a QR code. You can just scan that QR code and get your tickets online. If you want to do it, if you want to have a paper ticket, you can actually buy those at Kindly, but you can get those from us too. If you want to contact us, we can get the tickets to you. But for convenience sake, you can scan that QR code and buy your tickets for that. You can reserve a table for 6 people or 8 people, or just come as individuals as well. So that's where it's a little bit different this year.
Yep.
So thank you for putting up with that. We also have some raffles that we have that are going to be drawn that night too. So people can buy tickets even if you're not able to come. You can also buy raffle tickets and participate in our online auction.
Yep.
So that'll end that night, all those things, but people virtually can also participate and be a part of the fun. So I think that's everything we remembered about that, right?
moving on.
I did want to say something about the theme. So wanderlust or destination is kind of our theme this year because many people say to us, oh, I can't go to Africa. Not everybody says that, but a lot of people say, man, I can't go to Africa, but, and so we thought, let's embrace the but, what comes after that, right? Because we all can do something. We all can cross a boundary somewhere, figuratively or literally, and we can step out of our comfort zones in some way. And I just want to say that in our experience, people think that going to Africa is really hard, and it can be sometimes, but it's also full of so much incredible laughter and joy that we want you to experience a taste of that. We don't want you to think, oh, that event, I have to go, or you feel guilty, or you feel pity, and you want to go for that reason. We want you to come to have a good time, to enjoy relationships and have fun with each other. And so we've designed this event to give you a little taste of what we experience in Kenya as far as that we just laugh a lot in Kenya, don't we?
We do. We have,
Kenyans have a wonderful sense of humor. They like to have a gathering. They like to celebrate too.
they do.
So we're getting into it?
Yep.
Ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, so here we go. Forbearance. That's our theme today. One of the fruits of the Spirit,
Right.
right? And another word for that, we talked about long suffering.
That's one of those that you kind of want to pass over, right?
Yeah.
On the fruit of the Spirit, you want to pass over that one and say, well, do I really want to long suffer? Or do I really want to forbear? Because that takes commitment. That takes time.
It's painful.
It's painful.
And this year was a particularly painful year for us. It started about this time last year as we were preparing for the gala. Brad was actually in Kenya, and I was doing the gala, putting it on without him. And in the midst of that, the
We
day
planned
before,
that.
we did that for some reason. We had a reason. There was things Brad really needed to do on the ground with the land that we purchased. So we needed him to be there, and we thought we can do this. I can do this. And then some things came up. Do you want to talk about that, Brad? What happened?
Yeah. So I'd settled in there in Kenya for about a 2-month stay, take care of some things, and then the day before the gala, Sherry and I are talking over the phone about the gala, and she's preparing, and 8 hours time difference, and everything, and navigating that, and she's getting ready, and then next thing you know, the day before the gala, I get that phone call. And she says, Brad, your mom's had a severe heart attack. She's in the hospital, and we were caregivers for my mom for probably the last 10, 12 years of her life. And so, wow, okay. Next thing you know, I'm making phone calls on the phone for hours trying to get a flight out. I got out of Tanzania the next day, flew home, and then hit the ground running. So that was a series once I arrived home, and then Sherry and I, after the gala had taken place and she'd gotten through all that, then Mom went through some things, and then finally finished off with 2 weeks of hospice, and then passed on November 11th of last year. And we didn't know, but that was going to be the beginning, because any of you who have been caregivers for someone in your lifetime, you know that it's a transition after they pass away, getting back into life in general. But some of the things that we experienced, we had no idea that was coming on top of what we had just experienced.
Yeah, so it was a tough start
To the
about
year.
11 months ago today. And I will say that many of you were there. Some of you were there. Some of you helped. There were people who stepped in without me even asking or sometimes even knowing. It was kind of a blur, and I have felt bad since that I knew there were people that I didn't get to even thank who were there and helped with that event. And so if you were one of those people, I really appreciate you. I appreciate the grace many people get extended during that time, because we were just getting through it. And we were just getting started. So about in 2022, Brad and I had told our Kenyan staff that we wanted to designate 2022 as a year that we would not take on new projects, not try anything new, but to spend time really reflecting on what we were doing, making sure there were no cracks in the foundation, to prepare ourselves for growth. But we wanted to kind of retreat a little bit for 2022. That was the theme. And to really evaluate and have some hard conversations and look at our what's working, what's not working, and that started a trend that led us to a really difficult year in Foothold as well. So those conversations led to some realizations. When Foothold was founded with our foundational acronym is CASH. The first big C is complementary. We want to make sure that we're not bringing things as Americans over that make sense to us but just don't fit. Like the puzzle piece, we're not cramming a square peg in a round hole, but we're making sure that our ideas, we're listening and making sure that things actually benefit people there. And then there's accessibility. We don't want to deny accessibility to anyone, especially looking out for those with disabilities. And then there's the sustainability piece. We want to make sure that, there may come a day when we're not able to return, that these projects are able to continue. And then last was holistic. If you know us, we do a lot of different things. It's sometimes hard for us to explain exactly what thing we do, because we look at the whole community in a holistic way. But that big C, complementary, was the challenge starting in the beginning of 2022. We felt like something was off. And there was a little bit of tension in our staff between us and them, and the idea of what was complementary to them was not fitting right. And so we had a lot of talks, we had a lot of prayers, we had a lot of tears throughout that year thinking, conflict isn't bad, right? Like, we're having this, a lot of times growth comes from conflict, right? Like, we're not afraid of conflict, we're not afraid of these conversations, but they weren't resolving. This tension continued to grow. And I would hear, Sherry, that's the way you do things there, but it's not the way we do things here. And I started to sense that maybe our vision was no longer aligned. Maybe our values were not in line with the people that we were working with. And maybe this was a season for us to move in a different direction. We were open to it. We were praying about it. We were struggling. And then after the gala, after Brad's mom passed away, he went back in March.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was supposed to go back in March, but I didn't have the strength, physically, emotionally, to go back. And so I told Brad, it's your turn to go, and I need to stay home, because I just don't have the strength to do it. When Brad got there, he was blindsided. He went there knowing that we had to follow up on a lot of things, but he was blindsided by the very tension and relationships that we've been praying about just severed very quickly, very painfully, very heartbreakingly. And so we were in the midst of, how do we do our work here without some of the people that we had relied on for a long time? Is it safe? Can we survive? Can we eat? All those things, right? And that time directly coincided with you raising funds for the Jasiri project. And so as we were struggling, even with our very future, us and Foothold and our work there, and then faced with this conflict that came out of nowhere, we weren't completely blindsided, right? We had like a sense that something was about to happen. You were raising funds for Jasiri. And when you were there, Brad, do you want to talk about what you were going through this tough thing, and I was
Yeah.
at home, and I was having my things going on, and
Yeah, as many of you know, I mean, it's like going through something by yourself, especially when you're needing the comfort from a friend or a spouse, or you need to talk to someone. It's one thing, you know, but when you're 8 hours out of your time zone, you're 2 months away from your spouse, yeah, you can get on the phone, but it's not the same. And so, you know, when you experience what I experienced over there, it's like you just need to talk to somebody, but yet she didn't have the strength to listen or have the strength to really support. And there's times in our lives when we're that way, right? If you've been in any relationship, you know that sometimes
plus
happens.
the 7-hour time difference.
Right, and the 7-hour time difference. And so, yeah, I was really struggling through that. But then I had to double down and really start sitting down with the rest of our staff and having some hard conversations. And in that, I was finding a lot of encouragement. You know, here's this over here, but yet over here, there's some really great things happening. But at the same time, there's all this uncertainty. And I'm thinking about this very day that I'm up here right now, giving you a report on the Jasiri project that you have been funding and that you injected into last spring. And I'm thinking, wow, what am I going to tell them? Am I going to give them a good report? Am I going to give them a bad report? It's like, you know, as a little kid, you get, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to tell my parents? What am I going to tell, you know, what am I going to say? And so that's kind of my experience there.
But when you were there, all of our projects are still going,
Right.
but they were under some stress. But the one project that was going strong was the Jasiri project. So at the same time, as you were raising those funds, and I was getting text messages from Courtney,
Yeah.
Courtney Hines, who's on her Emmaus walk right now, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, what is happening here? The Jasiri project was like a shining city on a hill. It was the one thing that was going well, and you were doing this thing that was encouraging us. And I remember in the midst of kind of all this conflict, I told Brad, I want to fight for what we have. I don't want to give up, but I don't have any fight in me. And it was through that time, hearing those reports of what you were doing, that pressed me forward, encouraged me to keep moving, to find strength somewhere, but also to take time to rest. I did, for the first time, take some time to rest. And so you were that strength when I know I was weak. I know Brad was weak. And that's also forbearance. So you showed up when we needed that, to encourage, without you even knowing, right? You didn't know what was going on.
And this gave me the opportunity to sit down with Jennifer Moses. Jennifer Moses is the Maasai woman who we met many years ago and dropped out of school in 8th grade. And Sherry had shared with you a little bit about her story when she spoke here last. Well, there was a gentleman in his congregation that was inspired by that story and said, oh my gosh, she's only had an 8th grade education, and the Lord placed it on his heart to write a check. And he came up to Sherry, he handed her the check, and he says, I want Jennifer to get her diploma. So I'm like, yep, you give me a check, I'm going to make things happen. And I took it all. I took it all, and I took it all, and I sent it over. And next thing you know, Jennifer is enrolled in secondary school as a 24-year-old woman. Pregnant. Yeah.
With her third child.
Yeah, I'm probably bringing a kid or two on her hip to school and to class. She probably did. And I am so pleased to tell you that out of this congregation, someone was inspired to give to help this woman finish her education and be empowered through the project that you're supporting. And she got her high school diploma or equivalent in December of last year. And, you know, to sit down and have these hard conversations with Jennifer and say, Jennifer, you know, we've been talking through this person over here so much. What's on your heart? What can we do to empower you? And wow, how her English developed, how her problem-solving skills, her leadership skills started to come up and say, let's go. Because we were incredibly inspired by the funds that you raised and what we can do with it. And so one of the first things was we said, hey, you know what, we were, the staff person had said, no, I think we need to start a Jussiri project at this other school. Well, we're on our way to visit that school, and mind you, we're in a four-wheel drive, and we have to go 30 kilometers, and it takes an hour and a half one way to get there. And I'm like, no, we're not going here. We are not doing this. It's going to take 3-4 hours just, and something's wrong. We're not going here. So I came back and sat down with Jennifer, and I said, Jennifer, I said, so tell me, where do you see us going? And she says, Salida Primary School. And Salida Primary School, I went there, I show up on the motorcycle, and Jennifer's on the back with a baby. Yeah. And we meet with the teacher, and he says, oh my goodness. He says, our population is Maasai, just like your spokeswoman. And he said, our girls are missing 4 days a month because of their periods. And many of them are dropping out of school. And he said, for you to bring sanitary pads to our school, to bring this program, the education, you have no idea the impact that this will make. And I said, yep, here we go. So Jennifer, this is what we're going to do. Let's start the first slide, please.
I want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. One of the things that one of the tension we were facing, and it went back to our values and kind of our shared vision. And one of the areas that we really, as we surveyed families and as we talked to the schools, was that we realized that many young women, when they start their periods in Kenya, it's a traumatic event. That their families don't tell them it's coming. They don't tell them that, they don't talk about it. And I reflected on when I was 12, that time in my life. My mother had prepared me for it. I wasn't surprised, I wasn't scared, I wasn't shocked. I had what I needed. But in contrast, my best friend, a few months later, also started her period, and she was at my house. And her mom came from a different era where they didn't talk about things. And she was so grateful she was at my house because my mom responded and talked to her and supported her. And I think even that, like as a child, who had that support, who had that education, who had the resources to manage that, I was still embarrassed. I never wanted to tell my mom when I needed, I would be like, I hope she got some clues, and she'd say, hey, do you need me to go to the store for you? And I'd say, yeah. I never wanted to say it. I was always embarrassed. As girls in school, we were always embarrassed around that time. We didn't talk about it very much, even though I had the education. And so one of the issues we were dealing with some of our staff is that they wanted to sort of conserve those pads. They didn't want to just give them all out, and so they were hoarding the resource. And they were waiting for a phone call from a head teacher here or a clinic there, and they would go deliver, a few here and a few there. That was their kind of mindset in their program, and we kept saying we want to do it differently. I want to do it differently. The people I'm hearing want us to do it differently. We want to be proactive. We want to get ahead of that trauma. If we can provide the pads, if we can provide the education before they're of that age, then we were dealing with the stigma. We're helping to dispel that. We're helping to get rid of the embarrassment, but we're also helping to prevent that trauma that's just needlessly needs to happen. But we needed to raise funds enough to be able to provide them school-wide, right?
Yes.
I think that's, so I want to say one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay? As traumatic as that could be, if you had a parent who didn't tell you what was about to happen, I want you to imagine what it may be like for a Kenyan girl. In these communities, many times women have their babies in the community without going to the hospital. And many times those deliveries are traumatic. And these young women have seen or witnessed or heard in the next hut someone who was in pain. Someone many of them have died in childbirth. Died, girls her age, right? Teenagers even, who've been through that and have had traumatic experiences. So when they think of this blood that shows up one day in a certain part of their body, it's linked to a deep trauma. In addition, in Kenya, many girls undergo female genital circumcision or female genital, words are hard, right? FGM, we call it, where the girls are circumcised. And that's really, it's not circumcision, right? It's a mutilation. And it causes lots of pain. It's a torturous procedure, and it also causes long-term harm. So when a girl wakes up or she's in school and she notices this happening, that's what it's linked to. And so we wanted to get ahead of that. We also wanted to be just more proactive and the work that we were doing. And this moment where Brad was there, where we were having this seismic shift in our staff, was so critical. Your funding was such a critical piece of that,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And what you see there is just a sample of the washable pads that our team made, and those are all cut out and sewn on a treadle sewing machine. So just this first round of pads going to 2 schools, that required over 400 of these to be cut out and sewn on a treadle sewing machine. So they've been working hard, but right now we've thus far with the funds that you've sent, here's what we've done. We've provided washable sanitary kits, and a Jasiri kit consists of 4 pads, 3 pair of underwear, a bar of soap, and coming up here, you'll get to see this. Next slide. Not yet, but we provide these Jasiri kits to these girls, and now we're reaching all the girls. So we're starting with girls as early as 9 and 10 years old, and Jennifer is meeting with them. She's talking to them about menstrual hygiene, reproductive health, things that their parents have never touched on. Not only that, but then the boys in the school, we're sitting down with them too, because the boys are learning what's going on with the girls at this time in their life, so that they won't shame them should they have an accident or something like that. The boys have better understanding, and then thus forming a better relationship and preparing these young men for life also, because their dads aren't doing it. So somebody's telling them, and we just decided we're going to do it, all right? These girls are holding up pieces of paper. These are surveys that the girls are taking, a little bit about their home life, so we're establishing that with them. This is one of the new things that we're doing. And so once we establish this, we keep this on file because we want to follow these girls through high school. And we want to see the impact that first pad kit made year after year after year. In college, too. Yeah. Yeah, and so not only that, but then the parents are also brought in. We meet with the parents because we want to bring mom that never said anything to her daughter about this and not shame her, but say, hey, you know what? We're going to start a hard conversation, just like we're standing here in church today talking about this topic. It's a hard conversation, but it's got to be had. It's an elephant in the room, and we got to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, it's not going to happen. So these girls have filled out their surveys. This is a group of about 55 or 60 girls at Salida Primary that received their pad kits because of you. This is the new school. Next slide.
So I will say that the pictures, I think, that you received back in March were really nice pictures.
Yeah.
These are a little bit rougher because Jennifer is using her phone to take these and send these over to us.
They're unedited, so go ahead. Next slide.
Yeah, you'll see.
To say thank you on behalf of our girls. Because of the Jasiri organization, they have really helped our girls who have started the menstruation cycle, because we had a lot of challenges in them, in that during their menstruation period, they absent the school. But because of the Jasiri organization, we are really happy. The girls are now coming to school all the days without being absent. Also, we appreciate the panties, we appreciate the bags of the Jasiri, we appreciate the washable pads and the non-washable pads. Really did a great job to us. They've also done our work to be very easy, because now the girls, they feel that they are very free and they enjoy coming to school. Thank you for that.
I don't know if you can make out everything she's saying, but she's really describing the problem. That girls are missing 4 to 5 days per month of school, and through the pads, they are not missing out, right? And their studies are improving, and that they're just really appreciative of that and are supporting that. You may recognize some of these girls if you look closely. They're the ones that were in the very pictures that we shared with Pastor Therese back in March.
And a little statistic here. 80% of the girls in Kenya live in rural areas like where we work. And we work with the Maasai, who are even even more marginalized than most rural girls. And so out of those 80% of the girls that reside in the rural areas, only 14% continue school after 8th grade.
Yeah.
14%, compared to almost 90% of boys. So you can see where the priority is here. A girl drops out of school because of her period, and then she becomes marriage material. Her life is over at 12 years old.
It's not her own anymore.
It's not her own anymore.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the fact is that for every year of high school that a girl completes in Kenya, that can increase her salary by 25%. So you keep a girl in school those final 4 years, she gets a 100% raise in her income potential. That's what you're doing. That's what you are helping out with. And that is amazing. Not only that, but then an educated girl tends to have a family, the kids continue their education also, the statistics show. So these are all great things, all great things. Next slide. Yeah. So there they are. Those funds came in, and we're going to be able to produce. We're going to be able to supply these kids to about 4 schools because of the funds that you raised this spring. And these blue bags, I decided, you know what, we're going to do something special, and we're going to make up these Jasiri kits. So I called into Nairobi, and I had these backpacks made, drawstring bags made, and these girls are so proud of them. They are so proud, and it's just, it's something that they can use long after they've taken their pads and underwear home. But
they can carry their books
they can
in,
carry
they
their
can carry
books
their
in or whatever.
supplies,
So it was just the icing on the cake to this, and we were able to buy about 600 of those bags, and still have room left over for plenty of pads. So I'm so happy about that. We're going to a different school now. We're going to a school called St. Norbert's Primary, or Tangini Primary. And we had a long-standing relationship with this school. We initially started there with biosand filters. Since then, we've installed a well there. And so we've provided water for that community, which has been a great thing. But you know what? A girl can have water, a girl can have a school to go to, but if she doesn't have pads, she's going to miss about 4 days of school a month. On average. Next slide. And now this next slide is going to be a little...
You're going to turn your head sideways.
But that proud woman in the middle is Jennifer Moses.
So she's probably found a student to take that photo, right?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, a student took that photo. So yeah. And we can just skip... go to the next video. I might have you skip it just for time.
Just quickly.
Quickly.
So good evening. So I'm very happy because of the foothold for what they have done for us. Truly, you have really helped us. Early this year, most of our girls have been staying at home due to periods. They have painful periods, they lack the always to use, but because you have come in and you have helped us, we know now we will not have absenteeism. We really thank you, we really appreciate you, and we appreciate you at large, the international foothold, for what you have done for our girls. I know they are comfortable, some of them, they have that difficulty of not having money to buy, to purchase. They are always to be used, but now that you have given us the washable one, I know they are going to be comfortable. Thank you very much for that, and we really welcome you back again. So good evening.
Go to the next one.
So I'm happy, I'm very happy.
Labda tu labda ni ndogo, sijui size zenu, nasikia. Kama ni ndogo, una ndugu yako, tunampasie tu unaga tu. Uko nazo? Namba ndugu yako. Unaona tu. Unaigeuza hivi. Unavalisha hivi.
Who is a recipient of Jasiri pads herself when this project started, and now has completed her education because of your contribution. Now she is continuing on to mentor and disciple these girls, just as she was discipled by the women of Sherry taught. So you see what's happening here? This is snowballing. It is happening. And the funds that you sent have just provided and it's going to go another 50. before it's all over. So we are so happy with you. We are so thankful for your long suffering with us. And even though you know what was going on, you inspired us by your giving and your faithfulness.
Alafu kitu kingine nataka kukumbusha. Umeona wote? Umeona kitu unaiva? Kitu kingine. Unaona kadi yako? Asema ngwashe. Asema
Tingisha.
This is the way, especially women celebrate. You'll hear women make this sound more than anyone. So that is the sound of celebration. And so from a year that's been very tough, that started in tragedy and in loss, and the conflict and the difficulty, it's been more than a year, right? It's been almost 2 years. We're ending this with celebration. We're ending this with absolute excitement for what comes next. We are coming to you at the confidence that our foundation is strong and that we are ready to move into the next chapter, the next part of our story. We are more excited, more energized than we have ever been. And we want to invite you to be a part of that celebration. And the gratitude that we feel for all of you. This is really the first place we've told this part of our story in public, and there's more to it. There's more ins and outs. We'd love to sit down with you, but we want to just invite you to partake. The rains have passed, the sun has come, and it's time for celebration. So thank you all. We celebrate you.
People, but worlds as well, and it's just absolute stuff that we take for granted, and that's just so good that you guys are doing this. We really appreciate it. Okay, the special music today. He's got the whole world in his hands.
To my listening ear.
Now, if you please stand for the closing hymn, if you're able, Forth in thy name, O Lord. 438. Now for the benediction. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. May you all go and have a great week, and thank you. We'll see you next week.